Hi, Anna. Can you hear us okay?
Yep.
How are we doing?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing okay. You ready for this?
Yep.
Well, before we get started, um, we have here a different group of students than who you worked with last year. And
Yeah.
so we've shared a little bit about who you are, but not everything. So before we have you kind of share your process and genius behind trying to break down some of this text and words, could you start off and just introduce yourself to these kids, who you are, where you're at, what you're doing, what you got going on, any of that good stuff?
Okay, so I'm from Ukraine. Right now I live in Belgium. I study in college here. I study computer science. Um, I moved here right after the war started in Ukraine, so that would almost be a year now. Um, yeah, and in that time frame, about a year ago, Deb contacted me asking me if I would like to write a book about um, someone named Riva. And I said yes. It was a very interesting process because I've never written a book like most people haven't. Um, and Yeah, it was very interesting to learn about someone who has gone through the World War II. Um, yeah, it's not every day that you learn about someone, and especially that she was like so young. I think she was 8. Just yeah, like learning about how she's gone through that and how she's doing right now was very interesting. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And so I know you're in Belgium now for school. And last year, I know when we connected, you were moving and grooving with the war and all that. And while this conversation isn't directly about the war, I'm just curious, how are you still there because of school, or how's the war still impacting some of your family or your day to day stuff? Because here in the state side, the war is really, really talked about. It's kind of gone from last year where it was all up in our face and we were aware of it, and kind of like anything, the American way, we get tired of stuff pretty quick. And so while things haven't stopped there, it's not pressing breaking news every day like it was. So I'm just, I mean, selfishly, but I think also just for context, as we're studying World War II here again through this new gentleman, history is repeating itself and to some degree.
Yeah, so that's absolutely true that it's like not as not many people see it right now, and that's kind of sad because it's still happening, but it's like you won't be showing war for a year. Like that's kind of, boring. Um and For me, my family, most of my family is they live in a pretty safe city, so everything is all right. My grandparents, they live very close to the front line, kind of like close to Russia, like exactly where, um, yeah, like the worst things are happening. But they're in a village, and I think it's like more safe there. When I called them like a month ago, they showed me how there were tanks right outside their door, and that was pretty crazy to see. And like that's just what they see every day. They can hear bombs every single day, and yeah, it's really sad and yeah, really upsetting to just like how people are going through that, and it's just becoming their norm. It's normal for them. It's everyday life for them. So yeah, I mean there are bombings every day in many cities, but um yeah, the ones that are shown even to people in Ukraine like are the biggest ones where there are a lot of fatalities or something like that. So yeah, like it's still happening. It's just not such a big thing for the whole world, but of course it's a big thing for every Ukrainian still.
Right. Yeah. It's unfortunate that it just becomes normal, right? Like it's far from normal, but it just becomes the
Yeah.
day-to-day activity. So I appreciate you sharing that a little bit. So I'm glad your family is safe. I know there's not the case for a lot of people, so that's good to hear. So we're here today, maybe on a more positive note. We wanted to bring your voice in. One, because we loved working with you last year. Number two, we have the work to do what you helped us with last year, which was take a text, which can be sometimes a little challenging, and this text is challenging for us, and to kind of break it down into that picture book format. And while we've got some ideas, we also know it helps to hear from someone who had to go through it. And you went from that, and it's not like you had a whole lot of experience, and this is like your job and your career, just like you said. You got asked to do this, and you did a phenomenal job. And so we are kind of in that phase right now. We've got the text, we've been doing research, but we've got to figure out how to tell his story in 10 pages. So kind of like what you and I talked about before, if you could share with us, however structure you would like, kind of your thought process or how you go about doing it. I think that will help us, not just students, but us as educators as well, kind of get a grasp on how to make sense of this, to do right by Michelle, and putting together a book that does the right justice to what he went through, just like we did with Reed.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly had a really hard time just reading the text. Was it translated from French?
We're not sure. It could be a combination. So,
Okay.
because he wrote this recently, he's 100, so I think it doesn't, yeah. So there's just a lot of things that it's not a smooth read,
Yeah.
as you found out.
Oh, okay. So I thought maybe I can just like share some tips that I kept in mind while writing the book. The first thing is very important, of course, learning about that period of time in history, learning about World War II, trying to understand what was happening at that time. And like I myself don't know much about World War II because history was absolutely one of the least favorite subjects in high school for me. So I don't know much, but yeah, I think it's important to just learn about the time that he's talking about, learning about the groups that were made, not just the one that he was in, just like, yeah, trying to understand what you're even talking about. The second thing is just always try to remember the fact that you are telling somebody's story. I know that's obvious, but you are basically responsible for how the reader sees that person, how they see that period in history, and you really don't want to misinterpret something, or yeah, you want to make it right. Also, one thing that I think might be challenging with this text is try to leave as much small details as possible. The thing is, I think it just really adds a lot of like life to the story, and makes it memorable, because you can just like strip the whole text of the things that seem a bit too much to you. But I think for me personally as a reader, those little details are really what's memorable and what kind of like paints the story for me. And I think what is very different from my story and your guys' story is when Deb gave it to me, she was kind enough to kind of like go through it by herself and make it easy for me to go through as well. So I had an easier time like filtering it out, and you guys don't have that. And like I said, it was difficult for me to simply understand what he was talking about. But yeah.
Do we have any questions for Anna, or things that you would want to know about, like the process of she was going through taking last year's text to Reva and trying to make sense of it. This is going to be the task that we're going to do. We do have an advantage that we didn't have last year, and in terms of we've been able to have 2 video interviews with him. So we've been able to speak with him, which has definitely helped us fill in some gaps, learn a little bit about who, just the feel of him as a person, which we didn't have with Reva. We didn't meet her till the end last year. So that part's been a little helpful in terms of trying to make sense of some of this text, which has been really nice. But we still got some things to understand and process. Anything else, even bias we're thinking about from the teacher lens of this? So let me ask you this, Anna, while they're thinking here. So like when you were reading through the text, did you like outline certain words or underline? Did you have any sort of process? So even when Deb gave you maybe a modified text or a little bit, you still have to chunk it down to fit that book by me format. And so what was your thinking as you tried to figure out what to keep, what not to keep? Did you have any sort of system, Post-its or anything like that?
You mean with the Reva story or this story?
Yeah, with Reva's or this one, if you use however you processed it.
With Reva's story, to be honest, it didn't filter out that much because first we didn't have a huge text, and like I said, Deb helped me with a lot with it. With this one, I felt like there was a lot of like repeating stuff, or maybe it was just because I didn't understand some of it. Yeah, so I would say just yeah, like I said, keeping details in is very helpful, and I like try to make a small text out of the first page. I can send it over to you, but yeah, just like changing the words, basically that's what helps. And also I really liked the I'm not sure where I found it, but there was this where you gave it to ChatGPT, right?
Oh yeah.
Thing. I really liked it. Honestly, I would mostly go off of that, but probably add a lot more details because I felt like it just like threw away a lot of the stuff. But that was a really good structure in my opinion. I would probably go through that and yeah, just like add more life to it and just make it make more sense.
Yeah. And did you do an example of how you would do a part of that? Did you say you did?
Yeah.
Could you share that with us, or are you able to share your can you share your screen and talk us through that?
I don't think I've ever done that, so.
Do you have at the bottom of your Zoom call, is there like right in the middle an option that says share screen?
Yep, it's green and I didn't see it. No,
you're good.
Let me see. Okay.
Doesn't like putting you on the spot here, right?
Yeah, can you see it? Your screen sharing, can you see it or no?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, this is the one. Maybe I can just like put it on these two. No. Yeah, that's probably not gonna work. Anyways, yeah, so basically I honestly just like changed some words, just like how they go. Yeah, so I try to to throw away the things that I didn't understand, because there was like the names, I had a hard time understanding the names. There was Pearl, there was um Peter, and someone else. Don't know who that is. Right here. So I didn't really get that. Um what else?
Yeah, so we've been processing, the kids are just now starting to process the original document. They've been working through the kind of the chat GPT version here a little bit. And we've been doing some research into some of these words, trying to figure out where the locations are or who some of these people may or may not have been. So yeah, we've been kind of trying to figure all that out too, because that, and when we talk to him, sometimes he's all over the board in terms of he doesn't talk in a linear fashion too. So trying to just piece together some of those elements. But
Do you
just,
still have any calls with him like later? If
we're
you have
hoping
any.
for one more. Yeah, he was just in the hospital for about 9 days and just got home. So we're hoping that he'll be healthy, and then we'll do a follow up with some like just specific questions of things that we want to know. So
Yeah, if I was in your place, I would just try to go through it all, and there might be a lot of questions considering the text. I would just like get all the questions and try to clear it up as much as you can, to not misinterpret something or like write something that wasn't there,
right.
because that can always happen.
So as we see this and we're listening to Anna, what questions come to mind or thoughts or ideas? You were rolling like yours.
I was rolling, yeah, no. Oh, you have one?
Why don't you come up? She's not going to hear you. We've got a student coming up to ask you a question here.
Okay, so I know that last year, you only had like one page of information for Reba. It's like, how did you find valuable like work or information in that?
Like out of the one page, what's valuable?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was valuable. Since I didn't have, yeah, I, I think I added a lot of like details that were not there from like reading about the World War II and what was happening then, and I also read some stories of like how other people told it who were kids who have gone through that. Um, there was a lot of like about Jewish people that she told, she was talking about. I had to learn about that to add a lot of more detail about it, because not a lot of people know what happened then. Yeah, I think for me it was just like mostly adding things.
Okay.
I didn't have to filter out a lot, luckily.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
In this, not character, but person, it's not a work of fiction, but how do they best go about making him real?
So I don't know if you're able to hear that at all, Anna, but the question was, as we think through this, we've got this information, but how do we make him feel real? How do we, that character development type piece? And obviously we can do some graphics to go along with the words, but if you think back to when you were working with Reva, there was that information, but at the same time, how do we make like her real, make her pop? Because we can't say everything. We are limited in those pages. And so how did you keep that in your mind if you did, or how do you process that, or any tips or ideas just in general?
Are you doing the same thing like with comics? Are you doing painting as well?
We're gonna do, they've asked us not to do like a full comic spread, so we're gonna do a bigger visual, but we're come up with a different kind of creative way that we're still kind of toying with to still maybe try to get our comic idea across.
Yeah, that's a good idea because I think what really gave the story life and really showed her off is the paintings, because it's easier to like yeah, like when you have the visual in mind, it just engages you more, in my opinion. Because like with books, it's like you can't just say, oh, like she has I don't know, black hair, blue eyes, and that's like it. It's like you can paint it, and I think that's very important. With text, you can't really do that. Um, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, if you can really add anything to make it more like lively, unless if you show it visually.
Well, I think that hits on part of our next work as we process this text. We are working with Claire, who helped us with some of the visuals last year too. So she's going to join us again. So I think that's just a good reminder for us when we get into that visual piece to really make sure that's a good opportunity to really make him come to life through the work that we put together. So it may not necessarily be the words itself, but the combination of the words and the visuals. Is there anything else like in the process, like as we, as you think back to like last year and in terms of we work through that we should keep in mind, or like tips or reminders? I mean, I know we were working together, but doing different types of things. But as we embark on this, obviously we've reflected, but stuff from your angle that through the writing or through your role, we put together Riva, that we should keep in mind now that we're kind of doing your role this time with this story, things that you've learned or things that we should keep in mind?
I think what was very helpful for me and like kind of showed me the story from a different angle is working with the students, how they saw it. There was a lot of things when they like the paintings, like I never even thought about the things that they did. Like, I mean, they kind of like showed me a different side of the story. And yeah, it just like showed me something that I didn't think about. I try to keep my mind open about it. And I think listening to everybody's like kind of how they see the story is very important, because you're all working as a group, and I know a lot of people may be like, oh, I have this small idea, and it's like whatever. I think it's important to just take everybody's opinion and yeah, think about it, because it might not be a whatever something.
Any other thoughts or questions? So I know our next steps. We had a snow day last week, so where we were going to break down some of this text prior, so we're a little behind in our process. And so our next step is to really dive into that original text and start to break it down like you did. So I think that's where we're going to head here next. But I think we're at a good stopping point here. We appreciate you carving time and giving up your part of your evening here to chat with us. It's always good to hear from you. See you again. Share some of your insights. We'll definitely keep you in the loop in our journey as we create stuff, just so you can see the work as it goes through. And we just really appreciate it.
We appreciate
Thank
your
you.
story as well.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. I wish you guys all the luck. I know it's not an easy thing to do, especially with your story. But I mean, to me, when just a year ago, when Deb gave me this like opportunity, I mean, I didn't think that I would be sitting here and I would be able to like say, oh, I wrote a book It's like it's not something that everybody can say. That's like a pretty cool thing, right?
Yes.
So yeah, just keep an open mind and try to make it a fun experience and not just like an assignment or something.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate you, and thanks for making time for us today.
Of course.
All right. We'll see you,
Yes.
Anna. Take care.
Bye.